Hello, everyone. Rob Guest from football.london here, and welcome to the latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me today, it's the returning Alasdair Gold. Good holiday.
Yeah, it was. It was a good one. Thank you very much. Hope you're well. It's nice to be back. Although I did for the last couple of days have a bit of man flu, but I'm going to struggle through it, and I'm going to attempt not to imitate head of football.snot Lee Wilmot. Who, I listened to the last pod. It was we got to hear a lot more of Lee than maybe we wanted to. And I deeply and profusely apologise to everyone who, on his behalf, for the certain kind of noises that we heard coming out of him. But other than his excellent views, of course, but he's now taking a well-earned break to hopefully heal up and get better. And I had a lovely time away. It doubled up very nicely as partly, or mainly, to be fair, like a special holiday for Mrs. Gold's special birthday, but also allowed me to escape Tottenham Hotspur for a while, which was very nice. Let's be honest, it's been a tough old season. But back, and yes, while you were on duty at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday, I was trying to watch the game on a coach back from Heathrow Airport. I watched the majority of it. I got to see a fair old chunk. I'd say a good 80 minutes at least of it through varying connection issues, but I did get to see it. It was a strange atmosphere, it must have seemed like.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit flat, especially in the second half, but there wasn't a lot to get fans going in the second half, really. Ange Postecoglou's team let Southampton back into it, and I mean that was in stoppage time when they scored, set up a bit of a nervy finale, but Spurs managed to get that crucial third goal to restore the 2-goal cushion. But yeah, it was a bit flat, and it's probably no surprise after what happened in midweek at Chelsea. Fan protests as well before the game outside Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Can't really comment on what the numbers were like the previous time because I wasn't there, but according to a few people who were there, it was less than last time, maybe around 1,000 gathered outside the stadium, making the feelings known. And I think one of the chants I heard was "Can Beyonce play up front?" That kept
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, that kept getting an air in. And even during the game, I think it was about 20 seconds in when there was chance of "We want Levy out," and that happened quite a few times. I think it was certainly after one of the goals, whether it was the disallowed goal for Lucas Bergvall or Brennan Johnson second. But yeah, that was chanted a number of times. But thankfully, Spurs got the win, and something at least positive we can talk about after, which has been such a up and down few weeks for the club.
Absolutely. Would you play Beyonce out front ahead of Richarlison?
Nah, never.
I love how Richarlison just retains this place in your heart. He was back, wasn't he, on the bench? Not used, but I saw he was on the bench.
He was, and just on Richarlison, saw a comment on, I don't know if it was last episode, saying Richarlison's made more appearances than you this season.
Yes, I saw that as well. Very funny, very witty. No, I did chuckle at that one. It was very good. It looked. I mean, obviously, same. I can't really comment on the protests. I was at the last ones, which were really effective. I'd say, I think we worked out maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 for the previous one. So there's always going to be a natural drop off the second time, I guess, isn't there? The first one was very, very well organized. It was everyone knew it was going to happen, and it was very kind of it had its impact. And maybe this one, it's trying to continue the message, which is, I guess, the point of it. Trying to achieve change, but obviously, I think there's just always naturally a bit of a second kind of a drop off. It was weird actually because my last day of the holiday coming back, I was in Washington, and there was all these protests in Washington against Trump. It's like I kind of returned from all these protests in Washington against Trump, and there was protests against Daniel Levy and Spurs. I get back, protests everywhere. It was. It's such a weird game. Just watching on, kind of being in the role of purely an observer. A game where Spurs won, but you still kind of came away from it. Only Spurs could win a game, and you come away thinking, It was quite an important 3 points, and then the 3 goals just before a massive game in their season against Frankfurt. It should be something that, like, that's a great thing to kind of, if you pardon the pun, spur them on. But they still managed to kind of suck some of the enjoyment out of it in that weird second half. It was almost like the half-time whistle was the full-time whistle for them. They'd like, job done, great, let's think about the Europa League now. And they just really couldn't. And, this, I was about to say no disrespect to Southampton, but it's there on paper. What, the earliest team to ever get relegated in the Premier League now? Only 10 points. Spurs should be going out there and making a statement and getting their act back together anyway. The second half was just really disappointing, and all the subs that came on really kind of struggled to change things. But you were there. It seemed like first half there were some kind of good things to take away from it, little things that seemed to be working again.
Yeah, definitely. I think given the defeat at Chelsea and you going into the game, Spurs were 16th, only a couple of points away from Wolves, and then going to Molineux to play next week. There was a lot of talk of Spurs could potentially be 17th come the end of next Sunday. So the one thing that was important was just a really fast start, and maybe similar to what was the case at St Mary's when James Maddison scored within, what was it, about 30 seconds or something.
Early, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Spurs were on it right from the first whistle yesterday. Played some really good attacking football, maybe some of the best we've seen in recent months for them. Looked more like an Ange Postecoglou side, and I thought the worked them really well. The first one was a brilliant finish from Brennan Johnson.
I thought both finishes were really good. I think the second one's quite underrated.
Oh, second one's fantastic as well. It comes from really good movement and the smart header from James Maddison. Not exactly brilliant defending from a Southampton perspective, but who's going to complain about that? But in terms of the first one, it was Cristian Romero who started the move, long ball to James Maddison. He in turn has played it to Son. Jed Spence doing what he does, supporting down the left on the overlap, and then brilliant pullback to Brennan Johnson. And we know what Brennan Johnson can do when you get the ball into the correct positions for him. And he scored 16 goals now this season. A large chunk of them, all very similar, just with the ball being played across the area for him. And this is a player who maybe has been in and out of the team in recent weeks, a bit low in confidence, but really good finish that just got Tottenham on the way. And let's be honest, should it have been 3-0 at halftime? The disallowed goal, 5 minutes, VAR, ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I saw in the week everything that came out after the Chelsea game, which I didn't see too much of, which I think was probably a good thing. But yeah, the one thing obviously we know about the cupping of the year and things like that Postecoglou did, and the varying reasons for it that people thought and that he gave, and all of that's a whole other subject, which he just shouldn't be reacting to anything right now, in my view. But what did come out of that, and I think he was spot on, was if you're taking 5 to 6 minutes to make a decision, it's not clear and obvious. I would say it's slightly different with an offside, but isn't it ironic that as they're about to bring in semi-automated offside decisions seem to be taking forever. It's almost like they're like really scared to show that they get it wrong without the help of extra technology. It just took an absolute age. I think you could tell straight away. It looked like it was ever so slightly off. It was a shame, really, because it was a nice little kind of instinctive finish from Bergvall. It was, another one chalked off. But it's a ridiculous state the game's in when you're just all waiting around for 6 minutes to be told what probably most people knew already.
Surely if it comes to it and you can't make a decision within 2 minutes, then the goal or whatever decision should stand, because then it's not clear and obvious, is it?
That I think you should suggest that. I think there should be a cutoff. There should be a big buzzer in the ground that goes, and that's it. Whatever the decision on the pitch is should stand.
Yeah, but with the semi-automated decisions coming in, fingers crossed, we won't be in these situations again. But let's not hold our breath.
Was it World Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah,
World Cup is it? Yeah, and it seemed really effective, and it just there was no waiting around for it. I don't understand why it's taken this long.
Yeah, but during those like 5-6 minutes, I think we saw on camera, and it was like mimicking flipping a coin and then looking whether it's heads or tails, whether the goal had counted. And I think he was doing paper rock scissors as well. Yeah, and Pedro Porro as well. He was just trying to keep warm, keep his legs going during that time, because we've seen it quite a few times when players will just start seizing up the muscles just because of the length of time.
Didn't we speak about this before? Wasn't it Van der Ven's injury against Chelsea? Wasn't that after a huge stoppage last
Will
season?
it have been Sonny's goal, which was disallowed? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was last season. I think that kind of came about because I think I had to actually ask Ange about it. Because, yeah, it's ridiculous. You've got these kind of finely tuned athletes and all this sort of stuff that kind of have to be ticking over, and we're stopping the game for such long periods. And it is, and I'm very aware, and I'm sorry for everyone listening, it's boring to listen to now. It really is. It feels like every single game you're having to talk about something that VAR did. And you've kind of got to ask the question, is it better than it was? If you're having to do that, even if you're eventually getting to a decision that less people can argue about, is it worth it for the 6 minutes of boredom?
Yeah, I think it's too far down the line now for it to go back to what it was, which is a shame. And I'm sure there was there a vote during the summer, all the clubs, and Wolves basically said they didn't want it, and pretty much everyone else was in favour, because Wolves had so many decisions go against them last season. But in terms of that goal from Lucas Bergvall, Cristian Romero key to that again, getting a good header on a really good ball from Pedro Porro, and Romero himself, I think either side of that, went so close to scoring, had a header from a Pedro Porro corner, saved by Aaron Ramsdale, and Porro put in another really good ball to the back stick, and it looks like Romero's gone to score with his head, but Aaron Ramsdale took the ball flush in his face. So he was quite unlucky, Romero, but I thought he was one of the standout players yesterday for Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, again, from my very small screen of viewing, it looked more like the Romero we want to kind of push on Spurs and lead the way with his passing, his aggression in the other box, the way he dealt with a lot of stuff in the Spurs box as well. Just out of interest, Ramsdale, how many times has he got relegated now? Isn't it quite a few?
It's 3 times now. I think it's Sheffield United, Bournemouth, and now Southampton. So surely any club just don't touch him in the summer.
You know, I'm sure he's a very, very good keeper. He makes the odd very good save. But my goodness, if you're a club on the brink, you're like, no, it's okay, thanks. We'll turn to the other guy.
So Arsenal did quite well to stay up in the end, then, didn't they?
They
With
did.
Ramsdale in goal.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Romero was good. And look, I'm very aware that there'll be people saying, all right, calm down. It's Southampton kind of thing, the worst team in the Premier League this season. And that's true. And that probably gave him a lot more time on the ball to do things that you'd want to do. Absolutely. But weirdly, I do think also what Postecoglou said before the break, kind of, we were all a bit worried about him going away with Argentina and playing twice, but it looks to have sharpened him up a bit. He looks better. He looks more in his rhythm now, and hopefully that's come at a good time. What did you make of the decision to have Van der Ven, a doggy, all of that on the bench and not used at all?
Probably the right one, especially with Van der Ven, given the injuries he's had this season. You just don't want to push him too much. And the Ange's team selection was always going to be a bit of a talking point yesterday, because it was just about the balancing act with either you're making too many changes, but then you need to keep some of the rhythm and get that cohesion ahead of Thursday night against Frankfurt. And let's be honest, I think he made too many changes last time out against Fulham after a European game. But it was just the 3 in total. I thought Doggy would have started. Personally, I thought Jed Spence would have dropped out the team because he's played a lot of football of late, but he was back on the left, putting a really good performance again.
He's better on the left, isn't he? Admit it, he's better on the left.
He is better on the left. I was looking on the Spurs' review show after the game because Jed was speaking, and they were asked him about his best position, what he thinks is his best position.
Oh,
And
really? Interesting.
he didn't specify one. I thought he was going to say left back now, but no, he didn't specify one.
I should say it's maybe in this system rather than just saying he's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's a better left back. I think it's just because of this system and the way he can invert easier onto his natural foot. But I also think he defends really well on the left hand side. Well, apart from the goal, which we'll talk about. But on the whole, I prefer him on the left by a mile.
Yeah, I think he's Tottenham's best defender out of those three fullbacks, definitely by a mile, to be honest. But yeah, Ange said in his post-match press conference that he was just keeping Van der Ven and Doggy on ice because they've had injury issues this season. You just don't want to push them too much, do you? Ahead of a crucial period, and you can definitely understand it with Van der Ven. I thought Richarlison would have got minutes though.
Yes,
especially towards the end after they'd made 4 subs and there was just one substitution window to go. And
were you shouting down at the dugout to Ange?
Yeah, well, he didn't see me Brazilian flag in the press
and the banner. Richie, can I have your shirt, please?
But then Matisse Tell's not really played a lot recently. He's a bit part role, to be honest, the past couple of games. So he's needed the minutes. But Ange did mention in his press conference in terms of Richarlison, I think it's just good for him to be back in the matchday squad, gets rid of that anxiety really of returning to the squad after so long out. And yeah, I thought he would have given him minutes ahead of Eintracht Frankfurt on Thursday night, but not to be the case. But he's going to play a role going forward now for Spurs.
Yes. I saw someone commented about Rob Guest bingo the other day on the podcast, which made me chuckle. Richarlison was one of the words, which it's spot on. And why not? Yeah, it was. Oh, that was what I was going to ask you. Watching from afar, I only watched, like I say, a kind of a chunk of the second half, the Chelsea game. Did Van der Ven, was he like suffering from cramp or something towards the end? Or he went in for some challenge? He looked like he was struggling a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, Ange said on Friday, Van der Ven cramped up towards the end, and I didn't really spot it in the game, but watching some of the footage after the game where the players went towards the fans in the shed end, Van der Ven's just walking with one boot on, the other boot in his hand, and you're probably thinking, "Oh no, not again." But no, he was all right. Came through it unscathed, just a bit of cramp, but again, that's totally understandable. He's not played a lot of football recently, and I don't know, like Romero benefited from the international games. I wonder if Van der Ven, it'd have been the same for him, or it was probably just better to keep him at Hotspur way.
It's a weird one, isn't it, with Van der Ven? It's kind of this whole different thing about changing the mechanics of his running, all this sort of stuff. Maybe having more kind of work on that is better for him. I don't know. One player I did think looked a lot better yesterday from what I saw, although I know there was a bit of controversy around him in the Chelsea game, was Lucas Bergvall. I thought the Chelsea game, he was still, as he often is, one of the better players on the pitch. But I did think he started to look leggy, especially in the second half. And obviously I know he was then taken off and it brought the whole thing. But I actually, again, from afar, I'm not there, I assumed that was going to happen anyway because of the illness that he'd had on international duty. But I thought yesterday, he bossed it. He was so good yesterday, and really kind of drove on. Even when they were lacking impetus in the second half, he was there trying to get that going. And let's be honest, as the 19-year-old on the pitch, it should not be down to Lucas Bergvall to up the impetus of the team and the enthusiasm of their play. But it's funny, isn't it, when you look at it? And look, Archie Gray's had a big part to play this season. He's done very well. But when you look at the two price tags, one £40 million player and one 8.5, it's Bergvall who's probably been had the biggest impact, I guess, overall. He's going to be a mainstay of that midfield for years to come, isn't he? As long as he can steer clear of injuries and nasty clubs trying to poach him away.
Yeah, I mean, he's already a mainstay in the midfield right now. To be honest, he's in that first choice midfield three. But yeah, I think Ange said yesterday as well with the review show, I think it was, or in the press conference, basically that he'd not played or really trained for 2.5 weeks because of that illness when he was on Sweden duty. So it was about just getting back on the pitch, getting him those minutes, giving him another block of minutes against Southampton. in preparation for Thursday against Frankfurt. But yeah, I thought he was really good yesterday. He looked more like his usual self, just having an influence going forward. So unlucky not to have that first Premier League goal to his name, but that is going to come at some point because he's such a really good key player at the moment. Didn't there was an opportunity in the first half, bit of a run into the box, but it was a tame shot at Ramsdale. But
isn't that a really nice flick from Johnson, wasn't it? Back into his path. It's like a 1-2.
It was some really good play from the two of them. But yeah, he's just a key player at the moment. Big play for Spurs, and I think he's going to be a big player over these next 2 games in Europe.
He's turning into a big lad as well. I was watching the footage they were coming out of tunnel, and he is properly bulking up. Every time I see him, he looks like a little bit stronger and stronger. And I know Ange said, wasn't it? It's because he keeps following Decky into the gym kind of thing. But it's impacting his play as well. He's so much stronger on the ball now and able to use it. And yeah, he's just going to be there. He's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet, I think, going forward from now on. And like you say, he is now.
Yeah, halfway through the podcast now. So after Wilma's attempts at selling the benefits of using NordVPN, Ali's back, and something I assume you used on holiday.
I did. That's the thing. I don't need to sell it. I used it. That's the thing. It's just, I'm just talking of my experiences, and I did because we went to some far-flung locations. It was incredibly helpful for all of the things I always normally talk about. I was able to, in little moments of downtime, watch shows that I'd watched back home that I didn't want to miss. I know if people are probably thinking, why would you go on holiday to do that? But sometimes there are little moments when you're waiting at the airport and things like that. And also, I switched it on quite a lot whenever I was using public Wi-Fi because you never know sometimes, especially when you go abroad, what public Wi-Fi can be a bit iffy and allow people into your setup, and that helps lock it down a little bit more. And it also helped me keep an eye on what was happening in the world of Tottenham Hotspur from a distance. Didn't want to get too involved. Wanted to stay a little bit away and have some breathing space. But I always say it, NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world. It means there's no buffering, there's no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your excuse me, without your bandwidth throttling. That was my man flu coming back to get me there. Little dedication to Lee Wilmot there, and it's something I've used so many times. I will continue to use long after. I don't know. I'm hoping they stay with us forever as a partner on the podcast. But we'll be 2 very old men talking about things, and I'll be talking about using NordVPN or whatever the equivalent of is in the world and in those times. But yes, we've got a great offer on it as well. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Gold Guest. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on a 2-year plan. There's no risks either with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link, in case you just missed it there, is in the podcast episode description box.
What did you make of James Maddison's performance yesterday? He was another one who probably looked a bit more back to his usual self, influence going forward. Good assist for Brennan Johnson's goal. Ange full of praise of him in his post-match press conference as well.
Yeah, I'd say he probably fell in the category of a lot of players of first half really good, second half wasn't up to those levels. I think, against a team that was, not going to give Spurs massive problems going in the other direction, probably going to try and be a little bit compact at times. You need someone like Maddison to break them down. And yeah, he was good. He played a fair old chunk of the game, didn't he? Did he come off just after the goal, maybe? Or their goal? I'm trying to remember. It was quite late he came off this time, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
I know he came off looking quite frustrated. So maybe it was just before the goal. But either way, it was a good chunk of time in his legs. Numbers-wise, he's had a good season, really, in that respect. I'm sure he'd still want more. I was looking at it because Brennan Johnson's now 20 goal involvements for the season. I think Sonny's like 22, 23 goal involvements for the season, which surprised me. I didn't realise he'd kind of reached that figure yet. I think Decky's 20 goal involvements this season. I think Maddison and Solanke are both 19 goal involvements this season. It is utterly mad that team is 14th in the table. It really is. I mean, they're back to being the second highest scorers in the Premier League. And they're sitting there in 14th place. I was talking to a Man U fan yesterday, and we were just sort of the table came up on the screen, and we're like, you look at them, United like -4 goal difference, and Spurs are sitting just beneath them on plus, was it 13 goal difference? It's just ridiculous, and you kind of think that. I mean, the goal summed it up yesterday. It just shows you how many times they've conceded, often the same looking, silly, sloppy goal in key moments that has just derailed this season so many times, because the amount of goals they've scored, we shouldn't be talking about them even being out of the top 6, let alone 14th in the table. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Maddison, it's been a better season for him. And I just think he just needs to. It's again, it sounds mad to say it. It's the same about Johnson. We talk about a player with 16 goals this season, but it is about finding that consistency.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think his numbers have probably gone under the radar because they've been really impressive. But there's been some excellent performances followed up by performances where sometimes you just don't notice him on the pitch because he's not influencing things in the final third for Spurs. But yesterday, back to his best, played a fantastic ball through to Son towards the start of the second half. Good footwork in the middle of the pitch, and it was a bit of a reverse ball to Son down the left, who then cut inside and had an effort blocked. But hopefully a bit of a confidence booster for Maddison going into Thursday night. In terms of the goal then, you mentioned it. We've seen it so many times this season, haven't we? Back post.
I know. I mean, mostly it's on the other side. Mostly we see that between the right side of centre-back and Porro. But it is such a deficiency in the, I guess, coaching, players having an understanding of the instructions or discipline, whatever it is. It could be all of the above. But how many goals they've scored, conceded this season that has come from someone being free at the back post? Either back post. It's amazing. I mean, I don't understand how that's been allowed to happen. We could talk about you can talk about the injuries this season. You can talk about the changes in the back line. You can talk about that, but still, a group of defenders should be drilled enough to know, oh, it might be someone behind me. And that's it. I mean, let an opposition player have enough time to bring the ball down in the box and have a shot at the back post. It's not even a header. I mean, obviously the Chelsea goal the other night, that was just a free header with no one picking up someone coming in at the back. This one, they actually had time to take it down and score, and it was probably a combo of people. I think Jed Spence who played well and got a great assist, but had no idea that he was behind him. And then Wilson Odebear, that is definitely something about Odebear's game that's not there and needs to be worked on. His tracking back, he was nowhere to be seen in that moment trying to help out. Yeah, it's so frustrating. And like I said earlier with the goals, you just can only imagine if you just took out 3-4 of those goals that have been conceded this season, in how many games we know that Spurs have lost by single goal margins, they'd be so higher up the table. They really would. It would be a completely different thing. Yeah, it's just very frustrating. And the kind of people say, why is this not asked about? But he's been asked about these kind of sloppy moments of defending over and over again. And he just kind of like bemoans it. Postecoglou says, oh, it's not good enough. That's been our Achilles heel. And you kind of think, well, fix it. You've got to fix it, because that for me has probably been the biggest killer of the season, even more so than the injuries.
Yeah, you mentioned Wilson Odebear. He was someone Ange name-checked in the post-match press conference, and Odebear came on in the second half, and Ange basically said he was like he wasn't really ready when he was on the field and not making an impact. It was only really the final 10 minutes or so when he came to life, and credit to him because he did play a big role in Tottenham's third goal of the afternoon after winning the ball in the middle of the park with a good tackle, positive run, slips in Brennan Johnson, who then won the penalty. But I thought on Thursday night, Odebear didn't do enough when he was on the ball to, really trouble Marco Correa at Chelsea's left back position. And because we've seen what he can do. We saw that last month against AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League with those two crucial goals. And I think with his performance coupled with Brennan Johnson's two goals, I think Ange's mind should be made up for the right wing position on Thursday night now against Frankfurt.
Yeah, I think probably. You need goals. It's as simple as that. And Alasdair, what is he? He's turned 20 now, isn't he? He's going to blow hot and cold. He just is. He's that kind of player. A lot of kind of flair players like that, and he is very much a flair player. He's not going to give you a lot going in the other direction. And I know people complain about Brennan Johnson, but he does try and track back and work hard to do that. He doesn't always succeed, but he tries. So yeah, I would be surprised at this point if Brennan Johnson isn't kind of starting again. I think you kind of have to, especially any player that scored 2 goals right now in a team low in confidence. You need to do that. Yeah, I felt what you said about Alasdair was spot on. Really, he came on and then very little changed about the game, but that could be said about a lot of the players. I was looking at kind of the subs that came on and making an impact. Saw a little bit, maybe up some of the tempo. Alasdair didn't. I thought Gray took a little while to get into the rhythm of the game as well. I thought Basuma actually came on, was quite bright. I thought he won the ball a few times in quite good areas for Spurs. And then obviously Tell came on late on and grabbed his moment quite literally grabbed his moment. What did you make of that? Him taking the penalty and the kind of stuff about it with Romero, everything around it?
I think when a player's on 2 goals and it's the last minute of the game, virtually one of the last kicks of the game, I think everyone just assumes that player's going to take it for the hat-trick, but that wasn't the case. Cristian Romero, who was wearing the captain's armband at the time after Son had gone off, he had a big say on it. It looked like there was a clip on TV of Johnson basically signalling to Tell, pointing to himself, I'm on 2 goals. I'm here for a hat-trick. I think Porro was involved as well. I think he wanted it. He had hold of the ball. Romero's then taking it off him.
Really? Porro wanted it?
Yeah. Passed
That's
it
random.
to Tell. Well, he had the ball. I don't know if he wanted it or not, but I can remember against Alkmaar, he wanted that free kick, what Maddison took. And Son had to defuse the situation a bit. And because there's no regular penalty taker on at the end. So
that's key, isn't it? Yeah.
It complicates things a bit. I think there's probably a lot of questions over who's taking it, but fair play to Romero. He's just basically made his decision there and then. And I know it's disappointing for Johnson not to get the hat-trick, but I can understand giving Tell a confidence boost because he's been getting a lack of minutes recently. 1 goal to his name, and having someone else receiving a bit of a lift ahead of 2 crucial European games, could potentially be a bit of a game changer for Spurs. And Johnson spoke on the review show after, said basically wanted the penalty, was disappointed, but he's been in that situation before when he's taking penalties and other players have come in and had a word. And he said, if there's a bit too much talking, then it gets a bit messy and it unsettles you. And once the conversation was had, he basically wasn't going to unsettle Tell, allow him to take the penalty, and then went over to celebrate with him after. But I think Romero did, after the ball was given to Tell, went over to Johnson, said a few words with him and gave him a hug. But I think it's one of these where Johnson's had a huge lift in confidence from scoring the 2 goals, but then some of that can drain away by the fact he wasn't chosen to take the penalty.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I guess it could have drained away if he'd missed the penalty as well, I suppose.
True.
But I looked at it. There's different ways to look at it, quite frankly. I thought the way Spurs actually dealt with it was good on the pitch. I think that, and also, I read the quotes that you put out from the interview Johnson did after, and I thought he dealt with it really maturely in the moment. I was really impressed with that. I would have loved Johnson to have taken it and get his first ever hat-trick. That'd be brilliant. That's a lovely thing to kind of happen for a player. But there's an element of, I really respect the kind of a 19-year-old saying, no, I want to score my first Premier League goal. I'm the striker on the pitch. I want to do that. I quite like that as well. And I also like the fact that Romero came in and took the ball and said, right, this is what's happening. This is what we're going to do. That's what you need. You need firm leadership. I know you could see after the game there were a few players kind of talking to Johnson and Sonny, I think Matters, all of kind of the usual crew around him were kind of talking to him about it and all that. And hopefully that's it. Nothing kind of went on from that or anything, because I did actually feel like we've seen so many times when there's a big old argument on the pitch and people getting upset. And did Richarlison get annoyed once? I feel like maybe Richarlison once. I remember him looking upset about something.
There was one earlier in the season against Alkmaar in the league phase where Richie wanted the penalty. Maddison had it, and then Maddison's decided once he's at the penalty spot, Richarlison can have the penalty instead because he just returned from injury spot. Yeah, we've seen it countless times. Players arguing over, someone will then take it and miss it.
Yeah,
but I think they diffused the situation really well, to be honest, because it could have carried on.
Yeah, and I've seen some people make the point that, you know, Tell maybe needed it more than Johnson, you know, and as you kind of made that point yourself, really, that it's his first Premier League goal, so that is a good thing for him moving forward as well. So yeah, it could have been something far more than it was. I don't think it was the biggest thing in the world on the day, but it was. It went in the net, and Spurs suddenly going from. Honestly, I thought it was going to be of a horror show end. I was thinking, do not draw. If they drew that game, it would just be the most disgraceful end to a game, really, ever. So 3-1 looks a bit better. Probably gives them a little bit more confidence that they've scored 3 goals, got 3 points, and everything. And then they can move into the Frankfurt thing. I did want to ask you, actually, just in case listeners, because obviously there wasn't a pod, was there, after the Chelsea game? And as you were there, I did just want to ask, we kind of referred to it briefly earlier, the ear cupping thing. What did you make of that? Because from afar, I was kind of seeing what people were saying about it, seeing what Ange said about it, and then what he said kind of the next day. And I just wondered what it was like in the moment. I mean, did you see it in the moment, or did you? Yeah.
I saw it in the moment, and it just seemed like he was cupping his ear for what seemed like an eternity. And then
really, was it quite a while then he was doing it?
Then waved to the fans as well. And given the situation he's in at the moment, he shouldn't have done it, really. I can't remember too many incidents in the past where managers have done that. I can remember one. It was Mick McCarthy for Ipswich and gave a signal to the Ipswich fans and then basically told them to F off.
To do one,
yeah. But no, he shouldn't have done it, and maybe his answer in the press conference could have been better. But
do you agree? Do you think he changed his meaning as the like those minutes went on before the press conference?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was so loud at the time when Bergvall was going off, and fans singing "You don't know what you're doing." And then a couple of minutes later, Sarr scores from distance. So it's one of those where you have silenced the fans, but just Postecoglou and Tottenham's luck at the moment for then, you know, that goal to be chalked off. But regardless, I don't think he should have done it.
No, he's just not in a position to do that sort of stuff right now. It's like, if you are absolutely flying and, you know, team's right at the top, you've changed everything, you've revolutionised the club on off the pitch, things are great, then feel free to have a little bit of banter with the fans or whatever. But when you're in this kind of position, just know, regardless of whether he was doing it because he was saying, I told you it was a good sub, or whether he was genuinely saying, like he said in the press conference, I want you to be louder, we just scored a goal, why are you not cheering? Either way, don't do it. And in the second explanation as well, I found slightly hypocritical because he's always maintained this stance, which is quite a good stance. I'll never tell the fans what to feel. But then you can't then decide, I was telling them to cheer louder. Well, it's like, if you're doing that, you're telling them what to feel. It's like you're kind of doing exactly what you said you're not going to do. I just thought that was really silly. He does react a lot to stuff that he doesn't need to react to. And I saw he went on a bit of an epic thing, didn't he, in the later press conference stuff on Friday, like this one-man crusade to stop people filming on their phones and getting away with it. But it was all very worthy, valid stuff, I felt. But on the other hand, just ignored the whole point that if you react, you're giving them exactly what they want. You're not changing anything. Like the 2 people at Fulham that were filming him as he went down the tunnel, I read those quotes and he was saying, oh, you know, wasn't he saying something like, oh, I asked them that they're, you know, where's your mum, where's your dad, or something like that. And it's like, you know, they looked a bit embarrassed. It's like, that's great. But then they went and put it online and everyone took the mickey out of you. It's like, you didn't achieve anything because they then went and put it online. So yeah, I do feel like, you know, he just reacts so easily to stuff, and for a guy that, you know, has been around, is very experienced, very knowledgeable guy. He's going to be 60 on his next birthday, kind of thing. It's like at some point he's got to figure out that just let it go. You know, in the words of Frozen, just let it go. It doesn't need to be reacted to every. I know it's not every single time. I'm sure he gets so many kind of pelters and stuff that we're not even aware of. But yeah, it just doesn't help him, because it becomes this bigger thing that actually turns more Spurs fans against him, because it's held up as this thing of him against the Spurs fans, and it's just daft.
Yep. Right, Frankfurt next Thursday night, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. How's that going to go for Spurs?
Oh.
I mean, yesterday's win against Southampton should give everyone a big lift, because there were some big performances in there, some good ones.
Yeah, but this is going to be a lot more difficult. This is a different opposition. This is, you know, Frankfurt have done very well, given a lot of teams a lot of problems this season. They are no Southampton. It's got to go well. If it doesn't go well, we're done. The season's over. It's finished. It's absolutely this. I know it's such a cliche. It's a cup final. Every Europa League game right now is the cup final. Yeah, it's massive. I wonder if it's going to be a bit nervy in the stadium. It needs to be loud. It needs to be completely opposite of what it sounds like the atmosphere was on yesterday. It needs to be absolutely fortress Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the players need to step up, because let's be honest, with the away performances in Europe, they need to get a decent lead to go there, and that's no easy thing at all. Just need everyone on form. You know, you need Solanke to get service. You know, watching yesterday's game, I know he had that one shot that was saved, and he worked hard as normal. How little the ball gets to him in decent positions is just absurd. They need to be providing him with that ball at every occasion. They need to go for it. I kind of feel like this. I know sometimes first legs are quite cautious, cagey affairs. I don't think Spurs can afford to do that. I think they have to absolutely go for it in this first leg as if it's a one-off tie, because I don't even think a one-goal advantage going there is anywhere near good enough or safe enough. I think you need at least two, and like I say, that's no given against a team of this kind of quality.
Yeah, and I think Ange mentioned in his press conference the other day about Eintracht and the atmosphere, and someone from the club's already been to, you know, check it out. And I think did you go a couple of seasons ago to
Yes.
Frankfurt in the Europa League? I've been there before. They're so loud, so passionate.
Yep.
And that's what
worked well for Spurs. Spurs have been really good in noisy atmospheres recently.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to make so much noise in the away end at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and there'll be a large number of them travelling across, because I think they played West Ham in the Conference League semis a couple of years ago, and there was a number of Frankfurt fans in London. And yeah, they've been a bit hit and miss in the Bundesliga this season. Lost 2-0 against Werder Bremen on Saturday, but they've been really strong at home in Europe. So yeah, just got to take a good lead there to Frankfurt next week, and I think the team pretty much picks itself, really. I think the only decision you'd probably have to make is over the fullback, which one you leave out, because surely Destiny Doggy comes back in after his rest. Porro played well, Spence played well the other day.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think you can drop Spence right now. I just think because he's helping create goals. Yeah, interesting one, that. I wonder if the Doggy does come back in or not, or whether he saves him completely. I don't know. It makes it look a bit weird to kind of rest him entirely, but I wonder if he plays at Wolves.
Saving him for Wolves.
It's not saving him so much. It's more, I wonder whether, like I said, Spence being better on the left, Porro, let's be honest, of the three, a Doggy is not going to bring you goals. He's probably going to play less of a role in creating goals, and I think you need to score. So I would probably have Porro's kind of delivery into the box and stuff like that. I would probably go with Porro and Spence, but I'm sure he probably will bring a Doggy back in. So you'd go for the midfield three that started yesterday.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's probably first choice midfield three at the moment. And I think even if Decky comes back, I think Decky will end up on the wing because you need to find a way of getting Maddison and Decky into the team. So, yeah, I think Van der Ven comes in for Davis. Then it's your choice in the fullback positions, same midfield three, and then Brennan Johnson starts on the right wing.
He said, forgive me because obviously I've not been a part of things. He said Decky may be second leg, didn't he? Is that what he said?
Yeah, won't be first leg. He said Decky and Danza around a couple of weeks. So that is around the second leg, but Decky, there's a chance.
Okay, I saw we had there was our old favourite happened with that news, wasn't it? That we always say this is something that we kind of say among journalists as well. Whenever a manager says after the international break, as journalists, we never take that as the first game after the international break because it is just purely a statement. Is they'll be back after the international break, but it's always funny that in the football world, football fandom world, football fans always take that as the day after the international break ends. There, that player will be in training and available for the next match. And it's not really what the expression means. And then people subsequently get very angry when that player is not at the next match. Whereas it's just they'll be back after the international break, which is absolutely factually correct unless they come back early and were there before the international break. That's the only way that that statement can be wrong. But I did look at my phone and see after that press conference the fallout of people being very angry that Kulusevski and Danso were not available straight away after the international break. They do miss him, though. They do miss him so much, Decky.
Hugely.
You just rely on Maddison so much for any creativity.
Yeah, I agree. And there's, like I said earlier in the pod, there's been games this season where Maddison's just not had a big say in the final third and really doesn't create as much as he should. And I think the past month has, highlighted the importance of Decky to the team. And it just seems like an eternity now since he's been out. Was his last game Man City at home, maybe?
Oh,
Was it City at home, end of Feb?
Oh, it might have been. It has stretched on now, hasn't it?
It's been like 5 weeks since he's been out. And the way it sounded at the time, it'd just be a couple of weeks. But again, you just don't want to rush him back too early. At least now you're in a position where the vast majority of your squad are there, but you're going to need Decky in the second leg.
Yeah, I think as one of the reporters was telling me that he was still wearing protective boot towards the end of the international break. There was like a photo of him with a fan or something, and he still had the boot on. So it clearly, was not a quick fix solution. Question for you: do Spurs have to buy another playmaker in the summer?
Probably. I don't know what will happen with Decky, especially with Man City getting rid of De Bruyne. The City maybe look at Decky. He just seems the perfect Pep Guardiola player, to be honest.
He does. That'd be huge money. If I'm Spurs, I'm not letting him go. He was on course to be the player of the season this season. That would be madness. No, I think you have to kind of add to that. I think you need another Madders Decky. I know they're very different players, but you know what I mean. Someone that can just create something out of nothing with their passing. You need someone else like that in there because there's too many games like where it just needs that extra little bit of football kind of ingenuity that they're missing. So I would absolutely put that right up near the top of the priority list.
Yep, I agree. Right, I think we'll call that a day on today's latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham. We'll be back next week to talk about the Frankfurt and Wolves games and then look ahead to the second leg of the European game in Germany. So in the meantime, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Niall's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box.